Welcome to the Piqua City Schools State of the Schools address. My name is Kelsey Bachman, and it is my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Superintendent Dwayne Thompson is a 1987 graduate of Piqua City Schools. He attended Ohio University for his bachelor's degree and Wright State University for his master's degree, early childhood certification, and superintendent certification. He has served as a teacher, principal, curriculum director, assistant superintendent, and now superintendent over the past 26 years, all in the Piqua City school system. He was selected as the Piqua Teacher of the Year in 1999 and was a finalist for State Teacher of the Year in 2000. His wife is a teacher at Piqua Central Intermediate School, where their 6th grade twin daughters and 5th grade son also attend as students. Jeremy Hiddle is the treasurer and CFO of Piqua City Schools. He received his bachelor's degree from Capital University in 2000 and his master's degree from University of Dayton in 2005. Mr. Hiddle's background includes 11 years as school treasurer, 3 years of teaching experience, and 4 years working in the private sector in accounting and business operations. Over the last 5 years at Piqua City Schools, Mr. Hiddle has remained focused on maintaining a balanced budget while providing necessary resources to the classrooms. He and his wife, Colette, joined our community in 2013, and their daughter, Kaylee, is a 4th grade student at Piqua Central Intermediate School. Please welcome Superintendent Mr. Thompson to the podium at this time.
Good morning. Thank you, Kelsey. Kelsey Bachman is our senior class president this year, and I wanted to share a little bit about her, but I was afraid if I read all of her accomplishments, her resume just makes us look like nothing. So I made a PowerPoint presentation here just to show you all the different things that she's involved with. So could you give Kelsey a great big round of applause? By doing this, I can have this out of here by 11:30 instead of noon. I'm kidding. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to welcome everybody to the State of the Schools. We do have a few of our board members here today. We have our President, Amy Height, Vice President, Clint Bostic, and Board Member, Kelly McMacken. So recently I attended a summit for superintendents from Ohio, and one of the things that they shared with us was during a national conference, they tried to find out what are most community members concerned about or interested in learning more about with their school systems. And these are the 3 topics that came up, and one of them being school safety. Obviously that is a hot topic. We have the strategic financial planning that the district goes through, as well as what kinds of transitions do we put students into the path of, so when they graduate, they can get on to where they need to be for post-graduation. So those were the 3 topics that Jeremy and I decided that we were going to touch on during the State of Schools. This article from Education Week was just out last week, actually, spotlighting the fact that school districts are working really hard at trying to make sure that their schools are a safer place. Piqua City Schools is no different. We've been working on plans probably solidly for 2 years now on upgrading some of the systems that we have in our district to make sure that staff and students have a safe place to be educated. You can see the trends on the right-hand side and how in 2014 we seem to be at the peak in the United States in terms of shootings that were taking place in America. But you also see the decline that is happening, and I credit that to the fact that school districts as well as the law enforcement agencies are getting smarter at how to take care of these situations and preventing them and being prepared for them. So going into that, I'll talk a little bit about probably the most questions I get as a superintendent the last couple of years are what are the measures that we have in place here? How are we ensuring the safety of our students? Sorry. And what do we have in place? So I want to talk about some of those things and have an opportunity for you to ask questions so that I can make sure that you're aware of what we have in place to keep students and staff safe in our schools here in the public system. First, we always make sure that we have up-to-date safety plans. Tony Lyons, the assistant superintendent, is in charge of that. He works through the state process of making sure all of our applications are up to date and that everybody has the information that they need that's posted and it's all clearly understood. That involves stakeholders such as our local law enforcement, our fire department. We get parents involved and staff, and sometimes we even get our student voice involved. So it's a big process. This year, that whole process begins again, so Tony will lead that process and we'll make sure that we have everything that we need in place. After the Florida shooting last year, several people were very concerned. As the media heightened and things went out on social media, a lot of people wanted to know a lot more about what was happening in the school districts. So we formed a safety committee that involved our staff, and we got everybody together and just had really good conversations about what is happening, what's in place, what more can we do to make sure we're providing safety. And it was a great time for us to just get focused. That's going to expand this year again. We're going to reach out to parents, and we're also going to reach out to students to get more information from a more eclectic group that will help us continue our planning. We do have the PBIS program in place. You probably have heard us talk a lot about that. It stands for the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. It's an important part of our plan because it really does set a foundation for us. No longer can we just expect that students are going to come to school understanding and knowing what our expectations are. They come from a wide variety of backgrounds, wide variety of experiences. So in order for us to get everybody into one social setting like this, it's vital that we are clear with what our expectations are. So just like if a student doesn't know how to do a math problem, we provide an intervention. So if a student doesn't know how to participate or actively engage in certain parts of our building or our programs, we make sure we do intervention, we provide those positive interventions. So you can see this sign right here, which is similar to most of the signs that we have in our schools. They're consistent throughout all the district. They all are working on being respectful, responsible, and kindness. And then each school has expectations for all the locations that are in the hallways. So a very important foundational piece that we have in our district. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in the PowerPoint. Right here is the top banner of our new website design, and right here to the left you see two different symbols that we direct our students to repeatedly. The one on the far left is a link to a place where if any student sees something unsafe, they can go to that link and they can report things anonymously. That could include anything from a student maybe that is engaging in drugs, or just anything that they're concerned about that they want to kind of report and make sure that that person is safe. It is anonymous. I'll get a message, Tony will get a message, and whatever school that student goes to, that administrator will get a message. That allows all of us to work together. We can make sure that we're taking care of the situation, and we try to get in and tell students that if you see something, say something. The next one right to it is our bullying reporting system. When you click on that link, it defines what bullying is, and then it gives that student a chance to report any situation. We do find that most of the situations aren't truly bullying. It might just be a conflict that they're having with another student, or it might be something that started on social media outside of the school, but we can work on that situation and prevent it from getting any further. If it is a situation of bullying, it does start a pathway for us to start documenting so we can get more progressive with the situation and make sure that it ends. So we work really hard. We do encourage students to use that. We don't shy away from that. We really try to make sure if something is going on, we're updated and we have the information we need so we can help the students. You've probably heard of ALICE training. We do this every year in Pickle City Schools. This past year, we made sure all of our new staff members got the original ALICE training, and then all of our staff members, right here from Marty Grove, here in our local police officers, he did the training with our staff, and we did a little bit of a twist. Last year, we had a student from the high school that came to talk to me and the principal and Mr. Lyons about could the students actually learn a little bit more about what this training entails. So this training taught teachers how to work with students so that when you do your drills and you do your practices, we can talk to you a little bit differently about how you need to respond to the situations, whether you're at the high school level or all the way down to the primary level. So it was a little bit of a twist on that. It was kind of an additional piece that they got in terms of what they had before. And then we also, this year, actually yesterday and today, each lead principal of the buildings as well as one staff member is getting trained at the ALICE Institute, and then they're going to be a trainer model. So when they come back to their schools, they'll be a resource for anybody in that school setting all year long to go to get additional help. And it's no different than what we do right now with our police force. We can call up anytime, we can get information, and they're right there always for us. We did redesign the entrances to our junior high and high school. Those buildings were built before '99, which is when Columbine happened. Prior to that, the buildings were always built with an open concept. It was always important for the communities to feel like they were welcomed into the schools. They were very open. Once people walked into the doors, they had full and complete access. That no longer is the design of choice. So we had some work we had to do. We had to redesign the entrance here at the high school as well as the junior high. This right here is a junior high entrance. It used to be that you walked in these doors and you just had free access into the building. So this door and that door right now both have locks on them. You're in that vestibule when you come in, and you are greeted right here by the secretary, by those shatterproof windows who will address you. Same thing here at the high school. You walk in the first set of doors as we did today. You'll enter right here. You're in this little vestibule. You'll meet the secretary there, and then they'll take care of any of the needs that you have. If you're going to enter into the building, they can make sure that they get somebody to come to the vestibule to escort you to where you need to be. That way we just don't have people walking in the building and accessing different areas or the student population that we may not be aware of. If you're coming into the building as a parent to sign up your student, the process is the same. You'll be in that vestibule, you'll sign out the student, and you'll be done. Otherwise, if you're going to come into the building for any reason, such as you're going to volunteer into a classroom, you may be taking something to the classroom, you want to visit with somebody, we're going to do a background check with our new system from Raptor. You'll turn in your license or some type of a state ID. It just runs through the system very quickly. It takes a matter of seconds. If it's clear, then it will print off a little badge that gives all the information in terms of the time that you're in the building, your location, what your name is. It gives all the details, so when you put that on and you're walking around, staff members can take a look at that and find out if the visitor is in the right location or not. If the information comes up on Raptor and it's got a red background, that's a good indication that that person should not be in the school setting with students. It might be that they're a predator, or they have some type of a situation in the past legally that would prevent them from being allowed to be in the student population. We might sometimes have a custody battle between two parents where the courts decided that the father or the mother has custody and the other parent cannot have any contact with the child. If we get that information, we can put that into the system, so if that parent comes in and tries to sign out that student and we run the license, it will notify us, and that will prevent us from releasing that student and putting them in a dangerous situation. So this is a new piece we've tried this year, and so far it's working out very well. We went back to the idea of staff having ID badges. We all have those on, and that's important because what we're trying to accomplish is everybody that's in our buildings, we want to have identification. We want our students to see the people that are in there, to know who they are, to know what they're doing. Sometimes we have traveling staff that they may not be familiar with. So if they can see that everybody has a badge on, it has their name, it identifies the year that they're allowed to use this badge, they'll change each year. It gives students and staff all the opportunity to know that that person belongs to the building. Staff is trained that if they see an adult without any kind of identification, they'll approach that person and say, "Can I help you? My name is so-and-so," and I'll ask them where they're supposed to be. They'll escort them back to the office where they need to be. They'll go through the proper chain of command at that point. One of the more important things that I think we've done that we've used quite a bit, we now have monitored security. So we've always had security cameras. We've increased that over the last couple of years getting to this point. We can see all entranceways, all parking lots, all driveways, entrances to all the schools that we have in Pima City Schools at this point. We do have a person monitoring them here at the high school and junior high. If anybody opens a door that should not be open during the day, it will alert this person, it will bring up that screen, and they can immediately see who's at that door. If there's a student that walked out to go to the parking lot, they can follow that student all the way to the parking lot and see what's happening, even up to the point where they're in the car. It's an important piece because we want to make sure that we don't have anybody doing anything that they shouldn't be doing, that they're not going anywhere that they shouldn't be, and that they're not opening the door, letting people in that we don't want in the building. So we have used that multiple times. It does record. It keeps the recordings. Our person monitoring that can backtrack. They can look up all kinds of situations. I can probably only think of one or two incidents that we've had over the last 2 years that we were not able to resolve by looking up cameras. So it's a very effective system that has helped us quite a bit with making sure we're keeping our students and staff safe. We do have the window cleans that we're working on. If you've ever been to one of the Mexican restaurants here in town, you've probably seen their front windows. And as you're walking up, you can't see through the front window, but if you're inside and you're looking out, you can see out into the outside areas. It works through a perforation. So these are the designs that we have. And if you're inside the classroom and the lights are out, you can see through that to see what's going on outside in the hallway. If you're outside in the hallway and the door is shut and locked and the lights are out, you cannot see through that perforation. So it offers a nice design for the windows, which helps us kind of build on some school spirit, but it also provides a safety feature to the classroom, because that way people, if there's an intruder, could not see inside the classroom to where our students are located. Really huge, important part of our planning is working with our local law enforcement in the city of Piqua. I cannot praise them enough for everything they've done. They're excellent to work with. They are our go-to. I see Nancy over there shaking her head. I know they use them quite a bit, and we're so fortunate to have people that we have in place. I say it all the time, we try to be very intentional with our work. There's a lot of vendors out there that are trying to sell products. There's a lot of people out there that kind of just jump into situations and try to be reactionary to things. So we're trying to be very intentional with our work. So we're not going to spend any money or implement anything unless we're sure it's going to really provide the safety that it needs. And our law enforcement is very important to us, because when we meet with them and talk about those products and those opportunities for us to improve on, they're very, very great resources. It's unfortunate that enough incidents have happened that we have trends now that have developed that give us really good information and data to make sure we're making those good choices. And they provide that for us. So they've offered us an increased police presence, which has been felt and it's been very good into our buildings. We're working right now on a process to get a threat assessment officer in place. It will be an armed person that will be in the building, stationed here at the high school full-time, as well as at the junior high. We still have our protect officers that will be serving our other buildings, and it will be for security purposes only in that position. So it would be a great person to have out here, just so that we can have that backup in case we need it. We do have threat assessment teams at all the buildings, so anytime there's any kind of a threat, whether it's maybe by a student or an outside source, or there's any situation that might cause us to be concerned, that threat assessment team will get together, and many times it will involve law enforcement, and we'll assess the situation and try to find out what level of emergency that it really is, and then they'll develop a plan of action. It's important to have that team because it involves different people. It might have our school counselor, our principal, it might be a teacher, it might be all different kinds of people that have little pieces of information that when you sit together and I'll put it all together, it gives you that ultimate plan. So those threat assessment teams are very critical to the safety that we've done. We've used them probably 8 or 10 times last year with great results. Finally, we have two-way communication with 911 and police department. So anytime we have a direct situation that we needed, if we were involved right away with that situation, we can have direct dialogue, which is a great piece for us to make sure we're getting information directly to the people that we need to respond and not have to go through a third party, so to speak. Mental health issues are very important. You probably hear a lot about that in the news right now. It's another foundational piece that has to be there. It just can't be ignored anymore. And if you look at some of the statistics that are up there, that continues to evolve. And again, students come to us with different backgrounds and experiences. It's difficult to meet all of those, but we really do have to address that. We're very fortunate to have a relationship with Good Samaritan. They come in, they offer a lot of opportunities for our students that can't otherwise get the assistance that they need because they lack the insurance or the proper care. So they're there, they're in our schools. If they qualify, students and parents both can use that service, and it's all through that partnership. This year, for the first time, we hired a behavior specialist. We had the opportunity to replace one of our counselors. Instead of just hiring a typical counselor, we went ahead and hired this person with a little bit different credentials. She's stationed at the intermediate school that can be used anywhere, and her main role is to work with some of those difficult behaviors, as well as teachers on how to deal with them in the classroom. Also can reach out to parents. They can put together kind of what we would call a whole package. So the student gets the supports they need, the teacher gets what they need, as well as that parent learning about all the community resources that they can use as a support. So again, trying to reach out to those students that might have those extra needs that just isn't getting it for one reason or another. Another situation that has evolved over time is when any kind of an emergency happens, you want to make sure that people are trained. If there was an evacuation, your school nurse, your athletic directors, different people are going to be in different positions because they might have to leave the building. And when that happens, you might be leaving some people in your building in a vulnerable situation. So we're making sure that all of our staff is trained on first aid situations and how to provide tourniquets and how to stop bleeding and how to address different kinds of problems. That way, if we had an evacuation and people were gone, we still had plenty of staff in the area that can make sure they're addressing the needs of students and staff that might be there. That way they're getting the proper care that they need until we can get all the emergency individuals into the building that we need. Can't forget about our buses. A lot of safety issues surround busing, and probably one of the more complaints I get from parents is transportation. A lot of parents want the bus to be there exactly on time. They want it to leave on time. There's just so many factors that are involved with transportation, and we're always putting safety first. Anytime we get a complaint or somebody's concerned about the timing, we always just have to stop and reflect on what's going to be the best situation for our students. Some examples are we do have cameras on our buses. We also have sound so we can hear exactly what is said and what is done on all the buses. But more importantly, we have them on the outside so we can pick up every time somebody runs through one of the stop signs that they put out as they're picking up students. Happened just last Thursday, a semi-truck actually ran through the stop sign, and we were very fortunate that the student was exactly where he needed to be, and that the bus driver had their arm up and was really making sure that he understood he needed to stay there. She did not see that truck slowing down. So we had everything on camera. We were able to report that and get that all taken care of. Place of safety. We always make sure our students have a place of safety for buses. We teach them that first thing at the beginning of the year, and we reinforce that all year long. Sometimes a parent will call and will say, I don't understand why my student or my child can't run around and play at the bus stop. And we don't want that because we want them to be calm. We want them to be in an orderly fashion so when the bus pulls up, they can see every student and not accidentally hit somebody or cause any kind of injury. So it's a very important part that we do teach our students, and we do reinforce that again all year long. They must be on a route to ride a bus. We get so many complaints about this because sometimes a parent might call in and say, I want my child to ride a bus to and go to their friend's house. If they're not on that route, the bus driver doesn't have their name, and something were to happen like an accident, the first thing we have to do is contact the home. If a student's on the bus and we don't have that contact information, we can't make any direct communication to the parents, which is the first problem. The second problem is we can't always guarantee that that student knows where to get off. We don't want them to be lost somewhere in the city. And we also don't want them to get off in a place that might be not where the parents would get off. It's just impossible to track all that. So the most important factor you can do is if you want to ride a bus, you have to be on the route. And we just follow that consistently. We make sure students know that as well as parents. It's really the safest situation we can put our students in. For 2 years, we've been monitoring the use of cul-de-sacs. It really has caused a lot of concern by bus drivers who drive in the cul-de-sacs. They've been worried about it. We've been driving them this summer. Again, Tony and I went through, we rode through on buses, and we took a look at them. And we did that because there was a death last year that happened in Lebanon with a student that was struck in a cul-de-sac with a bus driver who did not see the student. Very tragic accident. And when that happened, that really caused us to rethink the whole idea of taking a bus down in those situations. So we no longer do that. The bus stays on the outside and picks up the students through the end of the cul-de-sac. It did cause a lot of parents to call in. They were concerned. They were used to the buses going in. We had to try to re-explain the safety issues and make sure that they clearly understood what our intent was, so we weren't just changing the routes just to change them. So those are our most important things that we need to do with our bus safety. We do have Alexander Stadium, one of the greatest stadiums, I think, in the state of Ohio, but we had to do a few things there to add some safety features as well. First thing being, we added a generator this year, and Jeremy will talk a little bit about how we got that accomplished, but we had to add some lighting for the egress area, and we had no way of making sure people could get out of the stadium safely if the electric went out. Now, if the electric goes out within 10 seconds, the lights will come back on, everything will operate actually, and we can get people out of the stadium safely. Second thing we did was we added a feature on the east entrance is for senior citizens as well as handicap overflow if there's not enough parking, but they can get dropped off by the stadium. In the past, they had to go find a place to park, walk, quite a distance to get there, and it was taxing for those people, as well as just not a safe situation. So this was a very simple thing we could put in here. It's already been used at one of our home games, and we've already received a lot of great feedback on that, so we're excited to have that feature. More importantly was we added some scripts. We found that we had to evacuate the stadium a couple times due to weather, and we really didn't have a script to guide people, and we found that people really weren't leaving. We were trying to get people not to block ways, not to wait at the front entrance for somebody, and to get to the cars where it was safe. And it was to the point where we physically had to go up sometimes to people and say, we need you to kind of move on. Now we have specific scripts for about any kind of a situation we could think of, and it directs everybody exactly with what they have to do and how they have to keep paths clear, and how to get to the car and get to the place where they are. So we're excited about having those. Those are posted. They're there for any game, even if somebody were to come in and lease the stadium. They're there for any announcer to use and to guide them for any of our safety features. There are a few other things that we do that we don't talk about because we just don't want everything out there, but those are the main pieces that we've done. Before I transition over to Jeremy, are there any questions about any of the safety features that we've added? Okay. So school financing is always the second thing that is always on everybody's mind. In particular, we are interested in looking at how we can be strategic. I've shared quite a bit at board meetings the awards that the Treasurer's Office has gotten with their accounting procedures, the audits that they've done. We've operated in black for over 10 years now. We can only do that with the community support that we have. And we come from a good tradition here in Pigwa, where my predecessors, his predecessors, even predecessors to the board have been very fiscally sound and conservative, and we don't plan to stop that anytime soon. So with that, we've got that message out there. We want to talk to you a little bit about how we have remained strategic with the way we pay for things and how we get things accomplished. So Jeremy's going to talk about those.
Thank you, Dwayne. Good morning, everyone. I get the fun part of talking about some of the projects that we've completed and worked on and how we've been able to afford those. One of the big things that we've done is we moved the board office. Most of you have been there. I think I've seen most of your faces there. At some point, you've been able to check that out. When I came here 5 years ago, one of the goals of the Board of Education was to find a permanent home for the board. We've been renting the Decker building here for it's been 23 years now, and they wanted to come up with something that was a more permanent long-term solution. So we started looking at buildings since 2013, and we've been continuing to do that, and we got to the point where we couldn't find anything that was working, so we went ahead and extended that lease out, and it just happened that most recently the city called us and talked to us and said, hey, we've got an option that we think that you might be interested in. And we took a tour. We were able to find a building that actually helped us downsize and save money at the same time. And I think that's what's important to get from this, is that the idea was to figure out a way to reduce our footprint and save money. So we're able to reduce our lease payment by eliminating this building in the long run, as well as our utility bills are going to decrease during that time. So annually, we're going to save $100,000 a year by moving out of the Decker building and into our own board office. And that's a huge savings for the taxpayers, that we're no longer doing that, and we actually have a place to call home that is ours, that we have been able to purchase. How were we able to purchase this building? Well, a lot of you probably have watched some of the videos or been at board meetings where Kurt South would tell you that we're on time and on budget during our construction project of the 3 new primary schools. We were able to save literally almost to the penny the exact amount of money that the board office cost. We were under budget by that much. So we were able to move that money to purchase this building, and it wasn't any additional expense to anyone, because that was something that we already had on the books that we had in the construction project. So the building will pay for itself back in 8.5 years. So there's the strategical part, is that even though that we paid just a little over $870,000 for the building, we're going to have that money put back into the taxpayer coffers in just 8.5 years. So it was a good investment, it's strategic, and we've been able to reduce costs for the taxpayers exponentially as we go forward, $100,000 a year. Another great thing that we were able to do this summer, I know most of you have been around, you've been seeing all the construction work that's going on around the district. So all the lights in here, for example, are now LED lights. And all of this stuff is made possible because City Manager Gary Huff was able to have a conversation with Dwayne at one point in time and mentioned, hey, I know this great company, Honeywell, they're able to do these energy savings projects. Dwayne came back and said something to me about it, so we sat down and we started working with Honeywell and having those conversations about what our needs were in the district. And as you start adding that up, and we started looking at it over a 10-year picture, we had probably easily $15, $16, $17 million worth of stuff that we need to figure out a way to start chipping away at that. How do we do that? So one of the ideas was to put together this energy efficiency project. And you can see that this graph is what they did. They did a benchmarking for us. And the lines here sort of show where most districts should be. And so all of our new buildings, including the high school, are pretty much right where we want them to be. But you can see the junior high is not. And so one of the biggest issues that we have at the junior high is that the chiller system that was in place for the air conditioning there was 19 years old. And it actually had started failing and was costing a substantial amount of money to maintain. And that was really the catalyst for how are we going to get that chiller replaced, because it's a huge expense. And this project helped make that happen. So this summer, one of the major things that was done is that the chiller has been replaced. This is the new chiller back here. I went and checked on it yesterday, and it's weird because I'm used to hearing, like, I don't know if anybody's been in the tennis matches back there, but when you hear the old one turn on, it's like jet engines loud. This one is like this high humming noise. It's a weird sound that you wouldn't expect to hear coming out of a chiller. So it's pretty cool, and it's and the people in junior high will tell you it's pretty cool because it's cold over there. One of the things that we're doing is changing the controls at the junior high as well as part of this project. We've got to get some of the electronics fixed, and it'll be through the month of September. So there's places that they're calling meat lockers at this point because it's not under control and the temperature is like 35 degrees. And it's a learning thing, it's a growing thing, but in the end we're saving money. We actually got a call from the city just going, is everything okay out at the junior high? Because we noticed that the electric bill is not what it normally is. Because the month of July, we didn't have the chiller on at all because we're replacing it. So the utility bill dropped, and they were just making sure, making sure nothing was going on, what was happening. So that was pretty cool to see over the summer. So our hope is, and we have an agreement with Honeywell that our utility bill should drop. It's $201,817 per year at a minimum. And so again, for strategic planning purposes, this is how we afforded the project. They're guaranteeing us that we're going to save at least $201,000 every year, or they're going to write us a check for the difference. So we don't have to worry about, hey, so we put out $2.8 million to do this, how are we getting the money back? We have a plan for that. And so it will, the cool part is all this stuff will end up paying for itself. One of the things that we were able to do, and if you were at the football game last Friday, we were able to see the new lighting that was at the stadium. So when we first went there, the #1 goal was safety. How are we going to make sure that people can exit the stadium safely? Because we found out that there was no egress lighting at the stadium. Back when we did the stadium, it was grandfathered in, there was no requirement to do that. So if the power would have went out, we would all have been sitting in the stadium in the dark. Well, now with the LED lighting, we're not going to have that problem because the generator can function the whole facility on its own. Initially, we talked about if we didn't change out the LED lights and we kept the old ones in, what would that look like for a generator? And that generator would have been massive to be able to operate that. It's actually cheaper to end up putting the LED lighting up than it was to get a generator that would work. So we went ahead and opted to do the LEDs, and now we don't have to worry about changing those out for, they tell me, at least 30 years. So let's hope that that's the case, but that's what they say. So, and there's a picture of the generator up there. But again, this project was $2.8 million, and it was one of several different things that we had going on. But the way that we paid for this is in the long run, we know that we're going to get paid back for it because of the energy savings that's happening. So it's a pretty cool project. Another thing that we've taken seriously, so the community has graced us with new buildings, and we're very appreciative of that. And we have a junior high that's 19 years old. We have a high school that's 39 years old. And as those buildings start to age out, we've got to do preventative maintenance on them. So my goal was to make sure that we had preventative maintenance agreements in place for all of the different major components in the district. And so where we're at today is that we work with Meyer Restoration on making sure that the exterior envelopes are maintained. And this is a picture of them tuck pointing. So we had a major project here at the high school, getting the envelopes sealed up outside by doing tuck pointing and fixing flashing and the window caulking, and you can go through the whole, anything exterior. We're trying to get the water to stop coming in the building, because that was one of the major issues that we found as we were doing our building inspections. So we've gotten the envelope of the building fixed. We're working on the roof as well. We talked about the envelope. So we found that the roof needed to be replaced. And so we've worked through a series of 3 different steps to be able to complete the whole roof. And we've finished 2 of the 3. And our hope is next summer to be able to finish the 3rd step of that project, which is to extend out the air conditioning to the 500 wing, as well as replace the roof over the 500 wing, as well as the gymnasium area. So Kramer Roofing is doing our roofing inspections, and so they do that on our high school as well as all of our new buildings. And then Tycon Paving, we work with them to do all the asphalt and concrete work that you see that's around the district. And the junior high parking lot got paved this summer, as well as some paving around back. The summer before that, we did the stadium parking lot and the parking lot area on the west. So now everything's under preventive maintenance. We have a cycle in place, and we know when things are going to be sealed and when they're going to get restriped and when things are going to, it's now under a process. The other thing that's not up here that we just got in place was with REEC heating and air conditioning services. They're actually going to maintain our HVAC systems. We have an agreement with them for the next 3 years. It could be up to 5. We're having extensions on that, so that we have our HVACs are going to be maintained through them. That's something that we haven't done in the past. We've relied on just hiring that out, but we have a true agreement in place now to make sure that our air filters are being changed, and that anything that comes along that needs replaced, we have fixed amounts in place for that. And they've taken on most of the liability to make sure that our systems work moving forward. So it's a lot easier number for me to budget, because I don't have to worry about if something goes wrong, how we're going to fix it. We know how we're going to be able to do that, because they've taken on the responsibility. So that's pretty cool. Another thing that we have to be very strategic about is one of the driving factors of cost is always dealing with health insurance. It's unknown. It goes up. They can give you a 20% increase. They can give you, it can be crazy. Since I've been here in 5 years, we've been able to hold that to just 1 increase in 5 years. We've switched to HSA plans, and that kept us stable. Then we got a slight increase, so then we made some changes to how we were doing things, and then we actually went out to bid to Medical Mutual of Ohio, who actually gave us a rate guarantee for 2018 and 2019. So we actually did not have an increase for 3 years in a row from that then. So we've been able to keep our health steady, but one of the things that we've really taken on is wellness with our staff and our families and our kids, because this is going to be the driving factor for all of us in the entire country. Is like, how are we going to keep our health and wellness for all of us? So what you see here actually is Dwayne and with our staff member Betsy Johns, who won the Apple iWatch that we gave away on our Health and Wellness Day that we had the first day of school. Well, not for school, but the first day for teachers to be here. And then John here, who's besides Betsy, is the wellness coordinator for the district. So one of his responsibilities, he works here at the high school as a PE teacher, but he's also the wellness committee chair for the district, and he has a background in wellness, so this is one of his favorite things to do. So we've established some good relationships and partnerships through Medical Mutual, and then the EA is the Employees Association, and that's what we actually use to track all of our wellness data. And they come in and we have a consultant that comes in and helps us with that, which is part of our insurance program. Our nurses actually just sent the email out with Sheldon there saying that brace yourself, flu season is coming. So we're already starting to advertise, get your flu shots done. We have people coming in to get flu shots to our staff members and stuff for free. So we're doing what we can to make sure that we're promoting wellness in the district. We had a wellness committee meeting last night. We're coming up with more challenges for the staff to do and things like that. So we're working on that, but this is helping to keep our costs under control. I put the AED up there because, as many of you know, we had a situation where our staff was able to save a student's life at a track meet last summer, beginning of summer. And these have become very important. So we made sure to do an audit through the district to make sure that we had enough units in place, to make sure that that they're all working and functional again, and then we've added units. We've also added units to travel with teams, so the cross-country team should have the unit with them now, because that was a concern, and they're shaking their head. That was it. Yes, we made sure that we have one of those going, because we don't know, right? Our teams travel, and if you think about golf, for example, I mean, you assume that they're going to have those things there, but we're not going to take that risk. We went ahead and we've got AED so we can send those out with the teams. Speaking of our athletic trainers, the people who help save that student's life, that's a picture of them up there working. They are provided to us by Premier Health. And Premier Health has been a great partner for the district, and this helps us to be able to afford what we're doing and being able to keep our students healthy and safe, and they do a great job, as you can tell. Strategic planning was, talk about finances. Premier Health, we were in agreement with them for 10 years, and they were donating $75,000 a year to the district as part of that agreement. And wisely, my predecessor and the former superintendent saved the money that they were getting for Premier Health so that we could replace the track. And so all of you have probably seen the new track. We were able to get that new track without spending any taxpayer money to do that. It was all for the money that we were able to save from that agreement we have with Premier Health. So it's just one of those things that we could not have done that without that partnership with Premier Health, and so we're very grateful for that. And so that comes to the end of my presentation. I didn't get into all the numbers and stuff because I didn't want to put you to sleep. It's early in the morning and I didn't want you to go to sleep. I could give you all kinds of fun charts and everything, but we'll leave that for another time. Dwayne's going to come up here and talk to you about what we're actually supposed to be here to do. So we spent time talking about safety and finances, which are very important, but we're actually supposed to be here to educate kids. So he's going to pick it up from there.
Thank you, Jeremy. So academics, we were in a very, very unique situation last year where the district had a 5-year strategic plan, and that was ending around the same time the state Ohio Department of Education announced that they were reworking their strategic plan. So we didn't want to design what our plan was last year and then let the state come out with something this year and then it not be well aligned. So we're trying to stay focused on what we were doing, as well as working toward what the state was working on as well. They just released their strategic plan last week. We are well on our way, and I'll show you a little bit of a sneak peek of what we're doing. But just to give you an idea of what we're staying focused on, again, you heard me talk a little bit about the PBIS program. We have that at every one of our buildings. This is an example of those numbers that Jeremy talked to you about. I know you can hardly see it, but this is how we track some of this information. And it's very interesting to see what happens at the different buildings. So we can tell by the month how many infractions are taking place, the location of the building that they're happening, what the offense is, and even the time of day. And why is that important? Well, we want to know how we can intervene with these situations. This provides us with the opportunity of what kind of incentives do we need to put in place for the students? What kind of interventions do we need to put in place for students? What training do our teachers need? And what locations of the building are we not covering? So looking at this, we can bring it together at our ad team meetings monthly. We have great discussions, our principals bounce ideas off of each other, and they walk out of those meetings every month with new ideas on how to address some of those situations that we're working on with our students. Last year, our Pima Central Intermediate staff earned the Bronze Award from the Ohio Department of Education for their work with PBIS. This year, they've been promoted to the silver level, and the high school, which is very rare, our high school, which is a credit to all of our students, will receive the bronze award. It's a very prestigious award, and I mean it when I say most high schools don't get that opportunity, and because of our students and our staff here, they've worked very hard. That's a very, very special honor that they're going to earn this year, so we're real excited about that. The other thing we're working on is Tier 1 instruction, and simply put, it's just what are the best practices that we're doing so every student has the benefit of our instruction. The Ohio Department of Education provides us with an evaluation system, which is all best practices that our teachers are supposed to be engaged with. We take those and we add them up here. We do walkthroughs. They're not evaluations on our teachers at all. It's meant to be a positive approach. We walk into the classrooms and we look at, are we engaging in those best practices? We can put together simple charts just to show what kind of things are happening in the classrooms. Again, our principals will meet monthly. They'll go over all that data. They'll talk about how we're engaging staff to make sure that we're providing that best instructional practice for our students. So that's how we're staying focused this year. So during the school day, when we meet throughout each month at our ed team meetings, we're going to be talking about that and staying focused on the current trends. While in the evenings, we are going to meet once a month as an administrative team to start working on our strategic plan so that it'll be finished at the end of the spring so we can roll it out full-fledged next fall. I shared with you that the state released their plan last week. It's called Each Child, Our Future. It focuses on the whole child as well as what we call success bound, or what happens to students as they graduate and walk out our doors for the last time. Whole child being, are we meeting the needs of our students in terms of everything that they have, more than just academics, more than passing a test. We're talking everything from drug education, mental health, making sure they're fed properly, all those important things that develops students as they're growing up through the years. So the new plan addresses that. There's a lot of really important pieces in there, and we do have a good start on those as well. But I'll focus a little bit on some of the success-bound work that we have. We do have a business advisory council here in Pitt-Well. We've had it here probably for about 13 years. The state redefined it this year and added some new requirements for them. So ultimately, this group will be meeting together to develop what our plan will be, and that will have to be published by March 1st of this year and turned into the state. Great group of people. They come together. Not only do they advise us on some of those really important work skills that we need to help students develop, but they also talk a lot about where we can get students into the workforce. No longer is it important that every single student go through some process to be ready for college. There are lots of pathways, lots of things our students can do after they graduate. And one of those important pathways is the workforce. And that's what this new plan does a lot to help us develop. There is the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal. That again provides students with a process and some educational pieces that they can go through in their high school years, so when they graduate and they have that to take with them, if they chose not to go to the college or military path, they can take that into the workforce with them, add that to their diploma and say, I'm ready to come and work for you. And they can start earning a livable income right away. So we're excited about developing some of those pieces. This is the first part of what we're developing. This is going to be a display that we're putting right out here by this front entrance. Brett Baumeister, I'm going to give him a special thank you. He's waiting for us to get this fund designed. He's the first person that's going to help us fund this. But this will be a life-size display. These are our valedictorians from last year. They'll be full-size, and then next to that, you'll see the 4 components or 4 pathways being post-secondary learning. You've got the workforce, military option, or some type of self-sustaining vocation. That's what we want to give all of our students experiences as they move through their freshman to their senior year. We want it to be so by the end of your years of being at the Pitt-Well High School, you've experienced those, you're familiar with them, you have enough information and enough experiences in your portfolio that will allow you to engage in any one of those successfully. The idea will be there will be a countdown clock to add a little bit of pressure to you, because it's important that we want you to know that by the end of your freshman year, you have to accomplish this. This indicates the academic requirements in terms of classes that have to be passed, the state testing requirements. Here are some career requirements, and this right here shows some of those things, those soft skills such as good attendance, collaborating with other people, cooperation, communication, all those things that the workforce is looking forward to. And these bottom categories in particular are the things that the Business Advisory Council is helping us to develop. They've met with us, they've talked to us about what their thresholds are for attendance, what kinds of incentives they add in, and what kinds of measures they take if their employees don't have proper attendance. So we're able to take that information and bring it down to the student level and relate that to them when we start looking at some of the attendance that we're dealing with at the school setting. Again, trying to get every connection we can for our students so that when they make that next step, they've got everything they need to be successful graduates. This then is just about developed. We're going to then take this down to the junior high school, and then we're going to work with them on what do they need to do to get students ready for this step. And then it goes down to the intermediate, same process, and then we'll take it down to the primaries. So by next year, we're looking forward to having this kind of a display in each one of our buildings. That way when parents and students walk in and the staff walk by it, they'll always be reminded of what that profile will look like for each student at every grade level band. So when they move successfully through our district, they'll have a clear path to graduation. So we're just about done with the high school piece. We're excited about that. And again, in after school hours, we're going to start working on that. So next fall, we'll be ready to roll that out. We do have some challenges that we're facing. There are 3 of them that I'd like to highlight. The first being our kindergarten readiness. Every year there's an assessment called the KRA. I don't know if any of you students remember doing that. It would have been your very first week of kindergarten. It has nothing to do with any progress that students are making in school. This is what they come ready to do. Consistently, I think since I have been here, which is 26 years, we rank at the bottom of Miami County. When you compare us to like school districts, in other words, the state will take us and match us up to other districts throughout the state, and they'll look at our demographics and find those 20 schools that are the most like us. That way we can compare our results. We fall just a little bit below the midline. What this shows us is we have students coming to school not ready. If you were to look at the proficiency test results, if you look at those in the newspaper, you're going to see the same lineup that you see right here in this county. I guarantee it. You're going to see Newton at the top. You're going to see Troy ranging there, and you're going to go all the way down, and you're going to see us ranking in that area if you compare us by the counties. And that's because our county is very eclectic, and it has different economic developments. It has different demographics. And when our students are coming behind already, it takes us a lot longer to get those students caught up and on track. We do make great gains. If you again look at how many students come in on track, and you look at how many pass the 3rd grade test, it's a significant growth. But it's a challenge, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of resources for us to be able to make that happen. The next thing we're facing is attendance. Chronic absences means a student has missed more than 10%. That's 18 days or more. You can see our graph here. This shows us in kindergarten. You're not working here, but the first column there is kindergarten, first, second, all the way up to our high school years. This is chronic absences, which means the students have missed more than 18 days. It's a lot of time missed from education, and it's more than just making up the work. We have students that are missing those important interactions with peers. They're missing that with their teachers. They're missing those opportunities to get clarification, to develop that collaboration piece. A lot of things happen when students miss school that makes it, again, difficult for us to keep them on track to that success-bound course that we're developing. So we're working really hard. All principals and staffs have been charged this year to work out why these attendances are happening. They're meeting with some parents to find out what we can do to address those issues and how we can get to the heart of it. One of our board members, Frank Patrizio, has gotten us some really good connections into the Miami County court systems, because what's happened is Senate Bill 410 got developed, and that requires us now to have have to do a lot more before we can take a parent or a student to court to require them to come to school. And one of those being, we have to have some meetings with parents. So you can see, if we're already not getting the kid to school, and now we are required to meet with that student and the parents, sometimes we can't even get them to come to the meetings. And without that in place, we can't even file charges. So it's a very difficult process for us to work through, and it's a big challenge. So we're grappling with that. We're really trying to figure that piece out. Graduation rates. These are reasons why students did not graduate last year in Pickle City schools. And the numbers below are the number of students in that category. We also had the situation where ECOT closed, the Electronic Classroom of Tomorrow. And when that closed, all of those students were forced back to the area where they lived. So ECOT and the state of Ohio, the Department of Education, looked up all of those students and the last address that they had and reached out to the districts, and they told us we had to go find those students, get them registered, and get them to graduate. In our case, we were given 69 names. We had to look up 69 kids that we never knew, never had contact with, and had not built a rapport with, and try to get those students to come back to our schools and register and get some graduating credits. Some of them were 18 with 3 credit hours. You have to have 21 to graduate. So those students, some of them we found out did not live here anymore. Some of them just refused, and others fell into the categories that you see right up here. We had some that were in the juvenile systems, some that were in drug rehabilitation. We had some that were dealing with some maternity issues or mental health issues. They're always a year behind on the state report card. So when the state report card comes out this year, you'll see the last year's graduating class on it. So these results will be on next school year's report card. It'll hurt our graduation rates because of those different factors, those challenges that we have to face. We always get a lot of questions about our facilities. We are very, very fortunate for the facilities we have. You heard Jeremy talk about some of those. People always want to know how old some of them are. The stadium is 2001. It's closing up on 20 years, believe it or not. And again, if you stand on your tippy toes, you can see the high school creeping up here on 40 years. And the high school probably is in need of the most kinds of repairs and things that Jeremy was talking about. So we are working continually on a plan for that. This building is a huge asset in our district. I think nobody has not been here or been touched by this building in some way. So it's very important for us to protect that investment and continue to develop that. High school will be 20 years old shortly, and we'll actually have that paid off here soon. So that's an exciting up-and-coming event that we'll be working through. Just some general things that are in the works that are important, because we think it's important to continue to develop our culture, to keep our traditions really in the spotlight, and make sure we're recognizing all those great things. Something kind of fun, we started a salad bar just this week at the high school. Students, have you tried it? Like it? Right? So soup and salad, fresh rolls, and fresh fruit. Students on free reduced lunch can go up and enjoy this. It doesn't matter. It's a great success. It was one of those up-and-coming things that we announced and people were looking forward to it. So we just rolled out on Wednesday, and it's been a very, very good success. The music department wanted to come up with a Hall of Fame similar to what the Sports Hall of Fame was. That's under development now, and I think we're ready to roll out the design for that. We have some really interesting things that are going to be in the first placement of that, and that'll be exciting to see that come to fruition. We've had some great students and actually staff throughout the years that are well deserving of being recognized, and we'll be excited to get those names and those events highlighted. We did work on a memorial garden. We had a memorial garden that was in a kind of an obscure place next to the parking lot that was really never seen. Hadn't been kept well in terms of some students were placed in it, some weren't. I believe we have 43 names, if I remember correctly, of students that were students in the school district, either K through 12, that did not make it to graduation because they passed away for one reason or another. So any student that would have graduated from this campus from 1981 all the way up through, we want to recognize in this garden. The whole thing is all ready. We just got the last brick etched last week. So we were hoping to place them this weekend, but with the rain, I don't know if that'll happen, but the bricks look like this. And we have all ready to go, and we're just going to get those placed, and that garden will be ready. It will be maintained we sat next to but didn't get to graduate with. Something really exciting that you may have seen on social media that is coming right outside the entrance here, next to the office, will be our Piqua High School Veterans and Active Military Memorial. There's a screen right in the middle here. You can actually go on our Facebook page right now and register. Any active member, anybody that has served in the military that graduated from high school, you can upload photos, and then this will become a touch screen. So anybody can come in, student-wise, staff, anybody, can touch on the screen, look up people, and see some of the great role models and the people that served our country that graduated from high school. That was all done through grants, and I give Mr. Messick, the principal here, a lot of credit. He really wanted to recognize those students, and he does a great job of making sure that they can recognize at graduation and throughout the school year as well. We did update our website. If you haven't seen that, it has a brand new look to it. It's a lot cleaner, a lot more information organized. One of the tabs right here says alumni. We're getting ready to roll out the Piqua Indians Alumni Nation. We want to really get that going. First, we want to get some names because I want to get some different generations of some of our alumni together to help us form what we want that to look like and what we want to do. I've got a lot of great ideas, but it's not about me. It'll be really about that alumni group. So probably next week, we're going to kick that out publicly. You can get on there right now if you're an alumni, however, and you can register, and we'll start collecting those names. We're going to get that going here shortly. We upgraded the look of our drum beat. It has a brand new look, brand new format. We'll be getting that first issue rolled out here in the middle of the month. And then finally, we have our garden project. If you've not seen this over at the Nicklin campus, it is amazing. The Indian Nation Station did a great video that's on our YouTube channel. Students in 5th grade spend the year growing 2 crops. They do one in the fall, they do one in the spring. You can see the lettuce here. They actually had enough lettuce grown that all the students were able to eat a salad. The next day, they made salads for the staff. The next day, they gave 13 full-size bags of lettuce to the Bethany Center. And those people all had fresh produce. It was just an amazing thing to see. They grow radishes and spinach and carrots and all kinds of things. And students and parents alike will tell us it's the first time their kid ever ate vegetables. We just added 13 new garden beds, all under the work of Ruth Kuhn and Anna Baumeister and the Piqua Gardening Club. It's an amazing project. The kids absolutely love it. It's just growing by leaps and bounds. It's very, very exciting. Finally, we did do a better job. Each building kind of had their own different social media formats. Last year, we collected everybody under one in the district. We're doing a really good job of getting our information out there and communicating the great things that are happening with students and staff. And if you follow us, you can see all those things year-round. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions for Jeremy or I based on what we just shared? Nothing, okay. I do want to thank the students for being here. You're the reason why we do all this. I hope you found it interesting. Maybe you learned some things that you didn't know about our work, and you're the reason why they're invested in everything that